The reason the market is doing what it's doing is people are sitting at home getting the checks from the government, okay? And this fair share is a bullshit concept. It's just a way of attacking wealthy people. And, I think it's inappropriate. We all got to work together and pull together.
If you're going to try to destroy a company by shorting 140% of its stock, you have to accept the fact that individual investors are playing the same game that you're playing, and now you're losing.
New York Attorney General Tish James says the state health department may have undercounted nursing home deaths by as much as 50%. James has been investigating nursing homes' handling of the pandemic since last March and just released this initial report. Now, the investigation here also reveals nursing homes' lack of compliance with infection control protocols, and it put residents, they say, at increased risk of harm.
Will that be in the paperback edition of the book?
By Andrew hope there's an update.
Cuomo. I'm going to enjoy this. No surprise, he was always a corrupt thug, and Andrew Cuomo's administration has been cooking the books as far as it goes, as far as nursing home deaths are concerned. Could be twice as many as we thought before. Absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. And it could not happen to a better guy. What an absolute thug. Just so...
I just think about all the wine moms who spent all of March and April.
You mean the Cuomo sexuals?
Lovingly watching Cuomo with their coffee every morning.
The Cuomo sexuals, yes. People who love Andrew Cuomo.
Who speculated about whether or not he had nipple rings because this was really important to their lives.
Remember his brother on CNN with the big cotton swabs and the bits they do? Man, what a time, what a time. I believe hubris is one of the things that comes to mind.
Never get cocky with COVID. Truer words were never spoken. I'll take credit for that quote. Never get cocky with COVID.
Vile POS. How wonderful. How wonderful.
I think your voice on saying that the vaccines are safe would be important. I said that as soon as the vaccine is deemed ready and safe, I'll be the first one to take a vaccine. Maybe we enlist you. I'll do it with you. We'll do an ad telling New Yorkers it's safe to take the vaccine to put us together.
Incompetence,
like
to utter incompetence.
De Niro and Pacino. You can be with
Fauci and Cuomo doing their Sammy and Dino act, or their Frank and Dino act in front of the world.
Whichever you want, you can be the De Niro or Pacino. Fauci and Cuomo, I'll give you a front. Who do you want to be, De Niro or Pacino? Which one do you want to be?
I love them both. I love them both. I don't want to insult one or the other.
Don't expect a dead wood piece of plywood bureaucrat to be able to play along with your dumb antics.
I think you're... So, healthy holiday, and I'm going to have a great one. Santa's going to be very good to me, I can tell. I worked hard this year. Social distance, wear a mask. Be smart. Be
smart, exactly. Like Andrew Cuomo was, especially if you ask Anthony Fauci.
We have a problem. We need to admit it and own it. But we've got to do the things that are very clear that we need to do to turn this around. Remembering we can do it. We know that when you do it properly, you bring down those cases. We've done it. We've done it in New York. New York got hit worse than any place in the world, and they did it correctly.
They did it correctly, and unless you were over 65, in which case they goosed the coffin industry correctly, and that's what happened. Andrew Cuomo, oh, what a joke.
We are back with Governor Andrew Cuomo, author of the book American Crisis. Sonny.
Governor, I want to say this book is absolutely fantastic. I think it's just a guide to how to deal with this pandemic. But let me ask you this. There has been a lot of confusion about an alleged March 25th order that directed nursing homes to accept, in New York, infected COVID patients, possibly leading to the death of more than 6,000 seniors. Now, you say in your book that was a lie, that New York State never demanded or directed that any nursing home accept a COVID-positive patient.
That's in the freaking book. He said that. That's remarkable. The rewrite this frigging fraud and hopefully
Where's
convict.
Daniel Dale when you need him?
This is remarkable what this guy did.
The Department of Justice, however, is now supposedly looking into this issue.
Yeah.
Can you explain what really happened?
Yeah. What a shock that the Department of Injustice sends a letter a few days before an election trying to advance a political theory.
While this is
shocked
happening,
and amazed that Trump.
While this is happening, the cadavers are being moved out of nursing homes in bulks and misrepresented.
I seriously hope Janice Dean runs for governor of New York.
I don't want her. She doesn't have the chops to be a politician, and that's not. You don't run in one vendetta. What's it? A vendetta race? This a-hole needs to be arrested. I'm not kidding.
I know, but I mean, like, it's not going to happen. They have the people like Cuomo get to do this stuff. That's how.
Well, it's not going to happen because I don't know what his opportunity is, but most likely he's going to put a hit out on the attorney general, and not a real mafia hit, but a political hit out on her.
Right,
because he'll play dirty because he's a thug. He is a sinister criminal level thug.
He's going to keep getting awards and book deals and getting invited to stuff and being famous and all.
He'll get awards if Fox News is running against him, but he can get hit from the left on some of this. The left has old people that died as well in that state. I think that this guy, and there's a reason why Joe Biden didn't bring him into the administration when everybody thought, wow, he's definitely going to. This guy is going to take a ride, a one-way trip politically in the backseat of the car and is not returning.
I hope you're right.
Administration was capable of such a thing. Sonny, they have played politics on this from day one, right? They have done a terrible job on COVID from day one, and they want a counter defense. And what they were saying was, well, a lot of people died in nursing homes in Democratic states. It's not just New York, it's all the Democratic states. And the truth is, a lot of people did die in nursing homes in Democratic states. The truth is, people are dying today in nursing homes in Republican states. Just that Democratic states had the disease worse and earlier. And older people are more vulnerable to COVID, right? We were introduced to COVID in the state of Washington.
Especially if you put them in amongst COVID.
If you look at how many people died in New York nursing homes, New York is number 46.
According to the books, it's 46. That's because the people who were on death's door, who were then taken out for last rites and brought to another facility, were counted as not having died in nursing homes.
Yeah, if you
That's why he's complicit. That's why this guy is going to be sent up.
Yeah.
I think he is.
If you took your last breath on the stretcher in the ambulance on the way out of the nursing home, then you don't count as having died in a nursing home. That's how they have better nursing home deaths. And I always knew that this was a little off because New Jersey had I forget exactly what the number was, but it was something like 11-12% of their nursing home population died during that initial spike. And there was no way that they were having numbers like that and New York wasn't.
So why were the old people taken out of the nursing homes?
Well, they were put in when they had the COVID, and then when they were
why
about
were they
to
taken
die,
out to die?
So that it didn't look like everybody was dying in nursing homes.
Now, that's very sinister if that's true.
Yeah,
that would be a sinister move.
That's what the AG is saying in New York, though. The Democrat, by the way, AG. So this isn't some political move. This is them saying we need to correct the count and make it accurate.
Well, if they're saying they did it to cook the books, then that has got to be a criminal offense. That's why the AG is talking about it, obviously. An investigation by New York State AG has concluded that Andrew Cuomo's administration undercounted coronavirus-related deaths at nursing homes by as much as 50%. Count of deaths in the state's nursing homes has been a source of controversy for Cuomo and state health department officials who've been sensitive to any suggestion that decisions made at the outset of the pandemic may have caused some of those deaths, which the state puts at more than 8,700. They've also been accused of obscuring a more accurate estimate of nursing home deaths because the state's count only included the number of deaths at the facilities, rather than accounting for the residents who died at a hospital after being transferred there. It's a 76-page report. I hope it's a 76-page indictment.
So here's the thing, though, is that, this is going to come back on Cuomo, as it should. And, it reflects on all of this stuff, on the handling of the pandemic and everything. But really, to me, the story is because there was a whole bunch more stuff in this report, too, about how people who ran these nursing homes and worked at the nursing homes mishandled the procedures, didn't have PPE, were not, following the basic protocols to isolate people who are ill and things like that. If you love someone, do not let them go to one of those places.
Well, a lot of people have no choice.
I mean, I know people have no choice, but this is a toxic, evil system we have set up. It's terrible.
Certainly in a pandemic. I mean, there are some are better than others. It matters. There used to be one in Winchester that I would go into to use the payphone, and there were simply zombies scattered throughout the lobby. They were old people who were in wheelchairs,
these
who were
places
just
are evil,
messes,
and
they would go to the lobby because it had the widest windows, and like bugs to the light, they were attracted to the outside, so they asked to be wheeled there. Or the staff knew if they wheeled them there that they wouldn't complain, and these people were not okay, and not treated with. I mean, we had a daycare. It happens at daycares too, where they were letting kids rub snot all over each other one time with one of our kids, and it was freaking disgusting. I'm like, although those are usually teenagers who run the place. Yeah, it's not. But it's maybe the old days when everybody used to take grandma in. Maybe that's something to think about again.
Yeah, I mean, I really think people should think about taking in older family members and having multi-generational homes because, I mean, look, I know there are minuses, but I know families.
Not your parents, though. I like them.
Okay. Yeah, no, not my parents necessarily. Not both of my parents, anyway.
Yes. You know what? Instead, how about this? We flipped a coin, and we decided that whoever won the coin toss, their parents got to live with us when they're old, and I won the coin toss.
And your parents are both already dead.
Correct. So, them's the breaks.
I'm not laughing at your parents being dead. I'm laughing
at
the
listeners heard you laugh, Alice. The listeners heard you laugh.
I'm laughing at my parents being in a nursing home.
Okay, this got dark. All right, so
no, but if you love someone, don't send them to a nursing home.
I would
that's
say
why I had the caveat, honey.
That's a long story. On the subject of my parents dead, I would also say if you love somebody, don't necessarily send them to a big hospital that's got all sorts of awards. And I would also say, but I don't want to get derailed.
There's a lot of Dr. Fauci's in some of those places.
There's a lot of them, absolutely, and their self-esteems are intact.
See, who needs therapy? We can just get this stuff out right on the podcast.
Yes,
honey.
I'm all for it. All right, so Cuomo's a POS.
Cuomo's a POS. Nursing homes are terrible. That's my takeaways from New York.
So I was on WTIC this week for 3 days, 1080 News Talk in Hartford, and I want to talk about my experience, Hells.
Okay.
The news department is really good. It's the news department generally, I'm always checking Twitter. I'm always waiting for, I get notifications when stuff happens. You send me stuff so that usually we don't miss much when it breaks immediately. This news department I was impressed with because they were right there. There are news departments that have atrophied and they just have guys rip and read wire stories and throw stuff together, and they could give a damn. And the news is a day late or a couple hours late. The news department there was absolutely on it to the point where they were giving me topic ideas by me just listening to the news. That's just a radio thing, just for you to know, because, I mean, the days of big news talk stations, those are just about over. And this is one of the stations that still does it. I'm not trying to kiss up to them. I was just impressed. As somebody listening with headphones during the breaks, also, it was very fun. It's very interesting. It's very interesting. When you talk about, when you're covering a coverage area that's got, there's hundreds of thousands of people listening at any time. Maybe tens of thousands, maybe more. Who doesn't matter? But there's a lot of people.
A lot of
people listening.
Maybe even as many as this podcast.
Maybe approaching. I don't think it's many, but it's very interesting. So you have callers that just call because they hear the number. They're going to call no matter what. Then you have callers who call in when you get into a subject. They call because they're really good at that subject. So you have to have your stuff together. And I, a couple of times I was like, especially like So, for instance, one of the things I'm not strong at is exactly how teachers' unions work, and how, in the end, that mixed with the teachers' unions' hard line on why they don't want to go back to school with COVID, mixed with actual teachers who really have concerns, and like kids, but have concerns. So I'm trying to be intellectually honest and not condemn all of teachers. Right. I can condemn the teachers' unions, but the teachers' unions can make a valid point if teachers are concerned. And there are some teachers who love kids who are concerned. And as a matter of fact, I happened to, while I was condemning teachers, a teacher called from Connecticut who caught COVID, who's a long hauler with COVID.
I believe we know a teacher.
Yes, we do. But and I told her about this, and she caught it. She's sure from a student, and she's not feeling good right now. And so, it's easy to say get the hell back in the classroom, and I believe generally people should get back in the classroom because the kids are also suffering, and really they're dying too. And so, but it's a little more difficult when you have somebody on the phone who's making a civil argument.
Right.
And it's simply, and so that doesn't happen much. Here we don't really speak to people, although we should probably start taking calls.
True.
But so that's, where it's tough is, having to, I'm not going to be so lazy in what I know about the issue as to not go in prepared. At the same time, somebody's telling me something that I don't want to, for the sake of being stalwart in my Tom Limbaugh views, stand behind, just blow her up off the air or say whatever. Right. But, and also, she may be bringing something of value.
Of course. And I think that that's something that's lost in sort of the place where we are as a country, where it's like everybody thrives from having like the best Twitter dunks and blocking all the responses that they don't like to hear and whatever. And, people can disagree for totally intellectually honest reasons and personal reasons. Right. And we have to be able to talk about that and wrestle with it. We have to be able to say there are teachers that don't feel comfortable going back to work. And to that I say, well, there are garbage men going to work and grocery store workers going to work and all kinds of people showing up at work. Are you less important than they are? And then you have things like the Chicago Teachers Union saying that they're going to cancel remote school on a strike because the school district wants them to go back in person and they don't want to. But at the same time, of course, you do have teachers who are concerned, who are put at risk by going back into school and having a classroom full of kids who, in the best case, are germ factories who bring all kinds of diseases. And you and I know this because we live with them. But, I think that we need to be fair to the concerns of teachers, just like we need to be fair to the concerns of people who work in all kinds of industries who are put at risk by having to show up at work every day, right? And we have to be able to have principles and be able to still listen to people and have thoughtful disagreements. And I think that what's happening right now, I don't want to be in a bubble. So, I do talk to people all the time who are on all sides of things, but it's so true. We have a show and we talk and we have our points of view and we're parents and we're frustrated by the fact that, we pay for a school system that essentially isn't offering school right now, as many parents are in this country. And we're on that side of that issue, but we don't necessarily have people on to tell you the other side. And I think a lot of people want to listen to shows all the time that only confirm their side of the story and only are telling them what they want to hear. And people don't necessarily want to hear from other people.
So I want to solicit emails and direct DMs from people who have, and I know you're doing stuff. You got a life to live. You might be exercising right now, or just doing stuff in the kitchen. Whenever I listen to podcasts, I'm always doing something else. Generally, I'm not just sitting there catatonically listening. Or maybe at night you do. I do at night, I guess. But if you have something to add or something, or a disagreement, do let us know. And it's at Twitter at Burn Barrel Pod. Al, is that right? At Twitter at Burn Barrel Pod. Is he naked? What's the problem?
He removed all his clothing.
Well, okay. Not as much bad as it could be. The 2.5-year-old just came in. He's been removing all his clothing. Oh, so I'll tell you. You probably didn't need to hear that. So anyway, yes, please do and email us. It's burnbarrelpod@gmail. I don't even know what it is. I have my own domain name somewhere. Anyway, Alice will tell us how to do this stuff, and we're on Facebook too, and I'll try to remember to do it. And if you think you let us know if you think that you'd like to call sometime, or I guess that's how we do it. Then we can throw it out there, and you could call. But I would like to hear more opinions and more thoughts. Although some of you have been great at sending messages and emails and all that stuff, and I know, believe me, yes, I know that you're busy and it's tough to do it. But I would like to know. I would like to know more things. I don't want to be solidifying a position or even a position on a subject where there are concerns and factors that I haven't factored in to it. And I don't want to cook a cake with rotten ingredients. In other words, Jesus, I am sucking with metaphors. I think I said it adequately when I said it before. But so that is it. And so anyway, that was one of the things about doing talk radio that I kind of dug. Although you could do that in Discord too. I liked that that you had to be ready, because these are, I talked to people from South Carolina, people from Florida, people from certainly in Connecticut, from all different walks of life, who have had very different experiences than I have. And so it's good. It compels you to keep an open mind. It requires you to defend what is defensible about your own positions on things. And I think it's healthy. It's healthy discord, and I enjoyed it. I also enjoyed that radio station because I have worked in radio stations with some great people and with some crazy people, and the people that I've been talking to at the station, just for this hanging out with them, are great people. And that's not to say I still work with great people at the Lowell Sun. That's ridiculous. I'm so spoiled there, because those folks at the Lowell Sun. The Lowell Sun, as an editor, we've got editors who have been there for a long time, so it's automatic. They know how to do everything, and they know the city, they know the job, they've seen everything. And then we've got younger reporters, and they are super aggressive, and they're not biased in reporting, and they work hard. And so in my main occupation at the Lowell Sun, I am spoiled. So. Not that you asked for any of this, but I offered it anyway. All right, Alice. Executive order, Executive order January is rolling along here. There's a new one. Good news.
Are we up to 40 yet? I think we're up to 40.
It's getting close to that. Joe Biden has a new one. Where is the noise?
The second order I'm going to be signing also changes what the president has done. What former president has done, and it a memorandum reversed my predecessor's attack on women's health access, and as we continue to battle COVID-19, even more critical.
Speaking of battling COVID-19,
right? Yes,
okay?
As he worked his way through his consumption there, he the attack on women's health. Now, this is the most honest administration ever. Honesty, truth is back.
Of course.
Truth versus fiction. What was that? Truth versus lies? That was what it says on the lawn signs. Truth versus lies. Mm-hmm. Is that an accurate, forthright statement?
No.
Attack on women's health. What does that mean specifically, Alice?
Specifically, we're referring to something that gets done and undone by executive order with every president that comes in. When we have a Republican, we do it one way. When we have a Democrat, we do it the other way. And it has to do with money that we give to non-governmental.
I don't care about what the executive order. What does women's health mean?
It
So if
means
you're
killing
sick-
babies.
Okay.
That's what that means.
Okay.
It means your money is allowed to go to killing babies at charities overseas again. So congratulations. I know you're very excited about that.
I am.
All the little babies in Africa,
Alice,
we can be spared them.
Alice, okay. Alice and I hold a different belief system on some things, by the way. Not abortion, no, although I wouldn't have necessarily put it that way just because I want to be employed. But it also means what they're talking about is, yes, they're talking about and birth control, I assume.
Well, yeah.
Right. But so, and for administration to position it as women's health is a pretty vile thing to say.
Of course. I mean, that's what they do, though. That's what it all is.
Because in this, and I won't put it like you did, but in this scenario that involves generally two people, one is going away and one sticks around. And so it's, I don't even want to have that argument. I am empathetic towards people who are on either side of that issue, but I think it's a little vile to call it women's health, because that ain't what's happening.
Well, yeah, and it's misleading to women, too, I think, a lot of whom suffer from, like, really long-term effects from going through that.
All right, that's a different podcast. That's on the 1570 podcast, but you need to start, Alice.
Okay.
You need to start that.
Okay.
Okay? Can you start it this weekend?
We'll see.
The president's 47 executive. The problem with the executive orders, and the one that waxed the Keystone Pipeline, the one that's going to destroy vast swaths. That's the only word that comes after vast of industries. In the name of climate change, with this idiot from Dorchester and the idiot from Beacon Hill. The problem is that nobody. This is the job of Congress to create these laws. Because Congress gets the feedback of the citizens. And the citizens could tell them what is good for them and what is bad for them. So the citizens in North Dakota can go to their congressman and say, hey, these pipelines, those are our jobs. We can't have food on the table. We can't have any of the things we need, including women's health, without any money. If you do this, because it'll destroy our livelihoods, make sure you vote against it. Because then those Congress people, those representatives of the people, would absolutely vote, as their constituents want them to vote. Well, and that's how it works. The people talk to Congress people, and they create legislation. The Senate deliberates as a deliberative body. The president then signs off on whatever he gets. It doesn't go with the president signs off on what he wants, bypasses the Congress altogether without any, it's top down without any feedback from constituency, constituents, any feedback from America at all. Right. And these aren't just like changing the wording that LGBT needs to be included in the Department of the Treasury. That's something that the president can probably do because that's an executive, whatever. You can change the wording all you want. But this is upending economies in industries, and that is not something that the president should be doing.
And it's, a locally specific issue where this is why we have Congress people that come from specific areas, right? Because the North Dakota congressmen are supposed to represent North Dakota and explain, why this is an important issue to them, whereas the president, especially if you do what the Democrats want and have national popular vote, why then they just say well, there's enough people in California and New York who can elect me, so I don't really care what North Dakota thinks. I'm just going to cancel their pipeline,
Right. And so you have somebody like Joe Biden. He doesn't know anybody working on pipelines.
Right.
The people, and John Kerry doesn't know anybody working on pipelines. Joe Biden gets taken to dinner at credit card, by credit card companies in Delaware. That's how he got to where he was. He's not a conduit to the American people whatsoever. Ooh, Alice is about to open a can of something on a certain 2.5-year-old. He is naked again, I believe. He's been taking his, let's see what happens. Oh, Sally. So the president, he doesn't have any idea. So the only people that have access to him are the very rich and powerful in the interest groups. And that's precisely for that reason alone. Remember the lobbyists in the Washington, D.C. hotel? What hotel was that? You'll tell me. That were waiting around to influence President Grant because, that's how lobbyists got its name, because, they were just swirling around the lobby waiting for him. You can't have that. You can't have just interest groups, the moneyed and powerful interest groups, be the only ones who can influence the president. That's why the president doesn't get to have these executive powers. That's why it goes to it's parsed up into hundreds of pieces of power in Congress. Because you can't have one guy. That's a monarch. You can't have one guy dictating, laws, which is really what that is. But it's happening now, and it's not good. It's not good for either side to do it, but Biden has been on a hyperdrive of this stuff. And it is, even the New York Times called him out today and said, slow the freak down on executive orders. Because, among other things, first of all, none of this has been deliberated by the American people. There's no consensus on a lot of these things that will permanently or for generations change parts of the country, parts of industry and culture. It's permanent, a lot of this stuff. So it should be deliberated. And if it's not, then the next guy from the other team will say, oh, so before, the guy before him did 4, this guy's done 25, I'll do 50. It's no way to run a country. It was not meant to be. But then again, Congress now has ceded all of their power. They're fundraising machines. They fundraise and work towards re-election. That is pretty much the extent of the whole thing. So Jen Psaki was asked about all of this stuff. Biden had said during the campaign that he would not be an executive order hound, especially when it came to taxes. But it's in general that you can't run a country like that.
So there's not going to be any delay on the tax increases?
No, well, I got to get the votes. That's why, the one thing that I have this strange notion. We are a democracy. Some of my Republican friends and some of my Democratic friends even occasionally say, well, if you can't get the votes by executive order, you're going to do something. Things you can't do by executive order unless you're a dictator. We're a democracy. We need consensus.
Right. And so that is, and I do think actually that you could do the taxes with reconciliation, which is obviously it just means a smaller majority. But so this is put to the most honest woman on the face of the earth, Jen Psaki, today by a reporter.
To the executive orders, the questions we were discussing at the start. So I'm still trying to sort of reconcile this. Daily, what are we at? I think we're at 26 executive orders now, and reconcile that with the campaign rhetoric. Because in October, Joe Biden said there were limitations on the use of executive actions, things you can't do by executive order unless you're a dictator. We're a democracy, we need consensus. Now, I think you said earlier that some of these executive orders were being used to roll back some of the immoral things that the previous administration had done. If you're calling these things immoral, is that seeking consensus and unity? And then also, does it suggest that President Biden sees himself as perhaps a benevolent dictator?
I don't know where they got that guy, but I like him.
So which organization is he from?
I don't know. I assume one of the UK mags. I have no idea. Are they allowed in? I don't know.
Well, Rob, I'm sure this wasn't your intention, but I think you took the president's comments a bit out of context. He was asked about tax reform. And
then he went on to have a broader statement about executive orders and dictators. So now the most honest woman in the world is shockingly, again, for the second week in a row, being blatantly dishonest.
Whether that could be done via executive order during the interview with George Stephanopoulos, which you're referring to.
But I think the
well, I think the question is pretty important context for everybody, and he said no. And the president also said during an interview with columnists back in December that he didn't think executive action should be used for everything, and that certainly is his point of view. But there are steps, including overturning some of the harmful, detrimental, and yes, immoral actions of the prior administration that he felt he could not wait to overturn.
Oh, I see.
Oh.
They weren't executive orders. It was overturning harmful, immoral actions. I see that clause.
And that's exactly what he did. Now, any historian will tell you that he walked into the presidency at one of the most difficult moments in history.
Watch it when somebody says any historian will tell you. Accept no premise. Accept no premise, ever. In fact, he walked into an extremely advantageous time to be president.
Right, exactly when vaccine production to control a huge pandemic was just taking off and really hitting the gas.
Right. There's no press except for one English guy from Monty Python, as far as we know, and Peter Ducey covering you.
That required additional executive action in order to get immediate relief to the American people. But he believes, as is law, as everybody knows how a bill becomes a law, is that in order to make action and policy permanent, you need to work with Congress. That's why he has also proposed a COVID relief package.
But mostly he's done these 30 executive orders not working with Congress.
Right.
He'll let them in on some things. On the big things where he can't get the votes, where everybody's going to have to be able to wet their beaks a little bit and do a little horse trading.
Big, bold package. Some say very big. I agree with that. And also,
some say very big. How Trumpian.
So an immigration bill. He has not held back or delayed putting forward legislation either.
An immigration bill. That said, he attempted to stop deportations via executive order, which was going forward before it was shot out of the sky
by the courts.
Exactly.
So he's going to use the levers that every president in history has used, executive actions.
I thought he was different, though. I thought he was better.
But he also feels it's important to work with Congress and not just one party, but both parties to get things done. Go ahead in the back.
And, I mean, he's using the levers that all presidents have used, but he's using them a little bit more than historically we've seen.
And since some of these levers control huge swaths of the economy, I would think that during circumstances that none of those other presidents were in, a pandemic, that maybe there should be some extra consideration, considering we've tanked our economy.
Right.
All right, Alice, this is your big turn.
It is.
Yes. Who is Leon Cooperman?
He's a Wall Street guy. He's a billionaire.
You sound like a cop, like we're at a bar with a shot of whiskey. He comes around sometimes. Squirrely. He's a hedge fund manager. That's what he is.
I am American billionaire investor and hedge fund manager.
Correct.
Chairman and CEO of Omega Advisors, a New York-based investment advisory firm.
Perhaps I'll have him handle my securities.
Go right ahead.
Leon Cooperman. Alice, why are we talking about Leon Cooperman today?
Because he came on CNBC to talk about the still ongoing GameStop saga that is still happening on Wall Street. So if you recall, yesterday we talked about this. Wall Street has been in a tizzy because maybe sort of led by some retail investors on Reddit, the stock price of a stock that a bunch of people had bet would go down went up, and they lost their shirts and had to be bailed out by their other billionaire friends. And now the other billionaire friends have put some pressure where it counts, and they shut down all the retail investor trading apps today, including the big one, Robinhood, which they essentially stopped all trading on these stocks that were being short sold and that people had driven up the prices of them again. So GameStop, AMC Theaters, Nokia phones, Blockbuster Video, BlackBerry was in there. There's a bunch that were causing them some problems. They've put a stop to that. They blocked trades on them. And not only did they block trades on them, other than just totally selling your position, cashing out, but they also started to cash people out.
Seems freaking shady. The fix was in. All sorts of parties went in. This is going to be a cultural problem. This is going to be a problem. The Wall Street establishment saw that their fiefdom was invaded by these other people who decided to, tip the markets and have sharp elbows and knock over some of the. How about this? They disrupted, and and some of these guys who are used to being at the trough, they've gamed the system long enough, lost a lot of money.
Right.
Because of these dudes on Reddit who decided to save a company.
And maybe some other big Wall Street investors also had beef with the investors who had short sold the, personal intra-territorial beef that they got in on it too, because
these are interlopers as far as Wall Street was concerned, and they had enough, and they used their power and influence to shut it down.
Yeah, so they
to shut down these could be you and me and other people who don't usually do this, who all got together and decided we're going to all buy stock from a company.
So, yeah, you and I, we're not stock traders. So if we wanted to trade stock, we would have to go on, like, a big company's app and buy and trade stocks, right? That's, like, our only option because we're not, like, professional investors because that's regulated. And so, we go on Robinhood and we buy and trade some stocks or Webull or these other ones, and, we decide to buy some GameStop shares or whatever because we've heard and it's a big deal and we're excited about it or whatever. I mean, if you recall, I said we should stay away from it because something like this was bound to happen, the SEC and everybody was going to come after these people. But yeah, and they just stopped selling on it. Oh, sorry, can't buy any more stock on that. You can cash out your position, and if you're not going to, we'll just do it for you. And some of that, some of that may have been money that had been like loaned to the people, which is called trading on margin, which I guess so that they did a margin call and cashed out positions that were made on margin. So like the actual company had liability.
But at the end of the day, the establishment people didn't like the newbies coming in and screwing around.
At the end of the day, they tanked this. They made the stock go down so that they could put out a margin call. That's what it is. This is our game, go away. And whether you're doing it for the benevolent reason that some people are like, oh, well, these people could get hurt if they keep investing in this stock that really isn't worth what they think it's worth. At the end of the day, the ultimate message is when you trade on the stock market, you're playing with play money that we're letting you play with, right? And if we decide to stop the game because we don't like the way it's going, then your play money thing is over. You're done.
And one of the people mad about
this is... We do it with real money. You do it with pretend land.
One of the people mad about this is Leon Cooperman, who's a hedge fund guy and billionaire on Wall Street, and he's had enough of this.
The reason the market is doing what it's doing is people are sitting at home getting the checks from the government, okay? And this fair share is a bullshit concept. It's just a way of attacking wealthy people. And, I think it's inappropriate. We all got to work together and pull together.
Ooh, sounds elitist to me. And he has made me and AOC and Ted Cruz brothers in arms. I'm not a Occupy Wall Street guy, but I like what happened. I like how they were disrupted, and I don't like how they closed off and suffocated the movement, and I think that's BS, and I hope this ain't over. Charles Payne from Fox Business put it perfectly.
First of all of this nonsense, all of this noise, all of this whining by Wall Street, it's making me sick. 140% of GameStop was short. I didn't hear one person on TV complaining about Wall Street trying to crush GameStop. 140% short. I told my subscribers, buy this stock, and they made a fortune. I also told them to buy Virgin Space, Virgin. We took profits on that today. Fizz, that's up huge. Tangers is up huge. Neil, you can't allow Wall Street to short 75% of a stock, and nobody says anything. Crush these companies into the dirt, and then when the individual investor makes money, everyone's up in arms. Oh, they're going to lose their shirt? Don't you think people are trading? If it traded 80 billion shares today, people are ringing the register. I have a kid who bought a house. He made $50,000 and bought a house. So yes, some people are going to lose and some are going to win. But if they want to change the rules of the game now because the general public is making money after decades of the shorts crushing thousands of stocks into the dirt. I have watched stocks being crushed completely to zero, and no one ever whispered anything because those stocks didn't have Wall Street sponsorship. They were small names. Maybe they went public through a reverse takeover. Whatever it was, the shorts have had their way with the market for decades. No one's ever complained about it. So I am thrilled. If you were going to try to destroy a company by shorting 140% of its stock, you have to accept the fact that individual investors are playing the same game that you're playing, and now you're losing.
Hear, hear, Charles Payne. Damn right, I am ready to grab my own pitchfork, my own antlers, beaver pelt, and storm wherever we're supposed to storm for all this stuff.
Right, and Dave Portnoy is right there with you, too. He's of Barstool Sports. A couple of the people who made money donated to the Barstool Fund, which has been bailing out small business owners who've been screwed across the country by the shutdowns. And, he's been up in arms today saying what Charles Payne is saying and what you're saying and what I'm saying is that, yeah, there was a big user agreement of terms and conditions that people checked the box. I've read this when they went into the app and started trading stocks. But they weren't thinking when they started trading stocks that even though it was, I'm sure, in the fine print that, that they would start to trade stocks and then Robinhood would, stop anyone from selling it, which drives the stock position down, and then sell their shares at a loss possibly. That's scummy. And people who do that, and it might be that other people, like the people that control the financing for Robinhood, had a hand in this too, because it was happening on all the apps, and these companies are backed by other companies that in some cases, have ties to the other hedge funds that are losing money, and they're supposed to be backing the money that Robinhood is putting into these trades, right? And it's all an interconnected ecosystem, and it wants to survive. It doesn't want to get screwed over by individual people daring to make a few tens of thousands of dollars, So, everyone, I think, regardless of politics, who doesn't like the big guy screwing the little guy is on the same side of this. Dave Portnoy is saying the same thing. Like, they changed the rules midstream. They said, you can buy and trade stocks just like we do. Oh, except, no, now you're doing a little too well. No, that's done. You can't do that. That's over now. And they changed the rules. They said, no, now we're going to sell your stocks. Your part in this little game is over.
And it just feels like a casino where somebody keeps beating the house and they're not counting cards or anything, and the casino says, screw it, get out of here. No, you got to toss him.
Yeah, but in a casino, people know they're getting screwed, I think.
Well, no, but in a casino, yeah, but if you're beating the house.
Right, that's what I'm saying. But like,
in a casino, it's fine if the house beats you all the time.
Right. But so Ben Shapiro had a big thread today about how like the people doing the GameStop thing are treating Wall Street like a casino, and it's really not a casino. It's supposed to be about investing in companies that you think have value.
Okay, so Janet Yellen is connected to this how?
So she's made about $800,000 in speaking fees in the last couple years from the company that bailed out the company that lost a bunch of money from this.
Okay, cool. Let's listen to what Psaki says when she gets a question about this.
And I had a follow-up on the markets and everything that's happening with GameStop. You did mention, I believe, yesterday that the Treasury Secretary is monitoring the situation and she's kind of on top of it. There have been some kind of concerns about her previous engagements with Citadel and speaking fees that she has received from Citadel. Are there any plans to have her recuse herself from advising the president on GameStop and the whole Robinhood situation?
Well, just to be clear, what I said was that we have the Treasury Secretary is now confirmed. Obviously, we have a broad economic team. The SEC put out a statement yesterday that I referred to, but I don't think I have anything more for you on it, other than to say, separate from the GameStop issue, the Secretary of Treasury is one of the world-renowned experts on markets, on the economy. It shouldn't be a surprise to anyone she was paid to give her perspective and advice before she came into office.
Of course. And I saw people on Twitter defending this too. Janet Yellen could make tens of millions of dollars. And you're complaining that she made $800,000 from speeches. Don't be ridiculous, peasants. That's totally deserved by her. She worked really hard for her $800,000 in speaking fees. I mean, do these people not realize how they sound? And I just worry that, like, you can tell me it's the rules and it's in the user agreement, or these people were, investing on margin, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You can tell me all the reasons why, we actually followed the rules, and it's okay that Janet Yellen made all these speaking fees from this company that we're saying screwed us over, the little guy. But, if they continue to act like this and sound like this about it, and say like, oh, this is just people with their government checks sitting on the sofa and gambling and thinking they can be with us. This fair share thing is BS.
Well, I'm a little disturbed at your take, and I don't think that you're all that familiar with Janet Yellen, and maybe you could use, the crystallization of who she is from a friend of mine who I grew up with and went to academy with, named Laserbeak.
Rich represent Brooklyn's in the cabinet. Damn, Janet, go and get it. 5th line for president. She knows the kind of stimulus it takes to pass the
I heard
block.
she called the house in crisis.
She's qualified. It only took a couple centuries. The first female secretary of the Treasury. Don't want no tax evasion, fortune staking in the Treasury. Trying for higher wages for the nation. Less disparity. Watch your step. There's busted glass. Janet broke another ceiling. You can bet your brass that the Lego guy is leaving less check to cash.
Excuse me, Janet has a briefing and a flight to catch.
And Janet, she's the first that's led the Council of Economic Advisors, treasuring the Fed. She needs a 3-sided coin that always comes up heads to put the triple crown down when she goes to bed.
Excuse me, Janet has a speaking engagement with a hedge fund she has to get to. That's good. You realize that she was the first female Secretary of the Treasury?
Well, I think that's great. Our previous Secretary of the Treasury, by the way, his wife, who is, I believe, a female, has a movie coming out, which I'm very excited about. You don't have to play it, but
I love her, obviously.
And the
Steve
movie, I
Mnuchin's
think
wife.
you're gonna love the movie too. I think it looks like from the trailer that
I'll
came
check
out
it out
today. Go check it out. Her name is what, Louise something?
Yes, Louise Vinton, I think, or something like that.
Linton.
Linton, okay.
I
I need to know, can you tell the people how to reach us?
burnbarrelpodcast@gmail.com, on Twitter @burnbarrelpod, facebook.com/burnbarrelpodcast. Should I give you your cell phone number?
Yes.
No.
Oh, what a week, Alice. What a week. What do we do for our special broadcast podcast this weekend? We got to think on it. Think on it, man.
I'm not sure.
Hog's got the fever.
But I had stuff I wanted to
Go
say.
ahead. Have stuff. Go ahead. I'm done, though.
I know that you're done.
I'm just out of petrol.
I know you're out of petrol.
Go ahead. Have stuff to say. Go ahead.
Because we didn't cover this yesterday, and I think this is important, that with all the stuff going on with Wall Street screwing over the little guy, that we have missed that Douglas Mackey of Florida, who used to run a Twitter account called Ricky Vaughn, has been arrested by the FBI, charged with the crime, of posting memes in 2016 that told people to vote on the wrong in the wrong way by texting a number.
Charged with a federal crime. The feds, the FBI got
election
this guy.
Interference.
Right. It got this guy. It's funny. In the last 4 years, they figured to go after that. If you look on Twitter, you'll find people tweeting 100,000 liberals saying to vote for, telling Trump voters to vote on a different day as well. So it's all over there. This is absolute bull bleep. And if that is election interference, what would be commissioning the Russians to create fake intel to use as oppo research on your opponent be? Is that interfering with the election at all?
I don't know what we'd call that. What about if you shut down the Twitter account of a major newspaper who reports on wrongdoing by one of the candidates? Would that be considered election interference?
I would think it would be.
So, I don't know what the new standard is, but apparently posting memes is a federal crime. So,
you know who I should ask about the Russian thing, Alice? Have you met a guy I went to college with, Friedrich Pleitgen? You familiar with Friedrich?
What do they say happened on this call?
Okay, what else do you have before I hit the...
I just wanted to make sure I got to that before we left, because I think that that's an important story that's getting overshadowed by the madness that is the Wall Street Bets GameStop story, which I also feel is really important and is going to end possibly an armed revolution if our overlords continue to tell us that we're being ungrateful peasants and not to use our stimulus checks on investments.
She's a hell of a doctor. She's an amazing doctor.
But that being said, like I said a few minutes ago, at the behest of Tom, you can find us on Twitter at BurnBarrelPod. You can also check out our Facebook page, facebook.com/BurnBarrelPodcast. Shoot us an email, burnbarrelpodcast@gmail.com, and you can check out our YouTube channel. You can comment on the video versions of these podcasts. You can like the videos. You can even thumbs down, dislike the videos too, I guess, and you can subscribe to the channel.
C'est la vie.